And what was that experience like for you in Church 101?
Honestly, I was so excited by it. I felt like I've said this to many people, I felt like I was born again.
Right.
I felt like God was revolutionizing my heart. I was thrilled by it because it was highlighting things which I'd experienced. For me, the most impacting thing in fellowship, in Christian fellowship, was not the big group. It was the one-on-one connections. That was the most impacting to me.
Welcome to Stories from the Revolution. I'm your host, John White, and the co-founder of LK10.com. On this podcast, we share real-life stories from the front lines of the relational revolution, where people all over the world are rediscovering a simple, relational way of living out church just as Jesus intended. If you're a current or former church leader who's felt restless or wounded in traditional church settings, or if you're longing for deeper community, deeper leadership, and deeper joy, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. What happens when you spend 15 years faithfully serving in a traditional church and still end up feeling lonely, unseen, and spiritually stagnant? For Neil Bradshaw, a data consultant and devoted husband in the UK, it wasn't sin or scandal that pushed him to question the church model. It was isolation. In today's episode, you'll hear how a surprising connection led Neil into a simple but life-changing rhythm of spiritual friendship. One that didn't just transform his relationship with God, but rippled into his marriage, his leadership, and even his emotional health. This is a story of rediscovery, of simplicity, of being seen. Let's listen in. So I am delighted today to be with my friend Neil Bradshaw. I'm going to let him introduce himself a bit more, but we first connected, I think, in 2018. You were reminding me, Neil, and we'll get more of that story. But it just delights me to have these relationships within Luke 10 of people that I would never have met in places all over the world. I'm not much of a traveler, and so to feel like I've got a good friend in you there. We've shared lots of things together over the years. But anyway, share with everybody where you are, and then tell us about your experience in traditional church.
Yes, thank you, John. Delighted to do that. As John said, my name is Neil Bradshaw. I'm on the cusp of retiring. I'm living in London just outside London with my wife. We have three teenagers, not teenagers, we've got three children who have left home. And I was someone who commuted into London very obediently and worked as a freelancer in helping organizations with data. And I became a Christian at the age of 29 and was part of a church, a traditional church, where the truth is I felt lonely. It was a church which looked quite successful and was successful, I suppose. But I felt lonely. I sensed a lack of passion and passivity, a lack of self-reflection and timidity in the men to share their struggles, and that disappointed me. As I said, this led to me feeling lonely and sad and disappointed and angry. It felt like a far cry from the joy of becoming a Christian many decades before. I felt like I was an outsider who had to be very diplomatic in sharing my feelings with other church members. So I felt as though I had to fit in rather than truly belong. So that was me.
You shared with me a little snippet of a story of a conversation with the pastor of the church. You'd gone to him with a need. So talk about that. What was that?
Yeah, this was a typical sort of conversation that would have been had many times, but I was asked how my week was. at when I was at church on Sunday, and I said, actually, I was struggling with envy this week. And he didn't really know how to respond to that. And I think he went away and just said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll pray for you." And that wasn't really what I was looking for. I was looking for more vulnerability and maybe some reciprocal sharing of his heart. But that was not the culture there.
Yeah. So you were in that situation, traditional church, for a good number of years.
15 years.
15 years. And then share, how did you discover Luke 10?
Well, I was in my frustration. I felt as though God was prompting me very strongly to question why churches didn't meet in homes. And so I started to read books by Frank Viola on that, critiquing the mainstream churches. And there's a very good critique of mainstream churches. A lot of things I agreed with. A lot of the things were new to me and inspired me. So I was very encouraged by that. But it didn't really give, once the book had finished, didn't really give a way forward. I felt as though, now what? There was no now what. There was no next step. And so I was talking about this to a good friend who helped me become a Christian many years before. And he said he knew someone who was involved or had some involvement with house church, and that was John Porter. So I emailed him straight away and asked him if he did any online training. I'm not quite sure what I was expecting to get from such training, but I was keen to meet with people who had gone down this path, I suppose. And he said he didn't do any online training, but he did know an organization which did, and that was Luke 10. He gave me Luke 10's email, and I suspect I emailed Luke 10 immediately after that, within 10 minutes of receiving that email.
And then what happened?
And then I got an email back from you, and we had a Zoom call. I think that may have been the first Zoom call I ever had. Can you reflect on those days? Can you remember those days when Zoom call was agent?
Right.
So I think we had a Zoom call, and I was quite taken aback with how much time you gave. I think it may have been a 45-minute Zoom call, and that struck me straight away. And then,
what do we think? 2018? Is that what we thought?
We went 2018, and then you encouraged me to consider going on a Church 101 course, which I immediately was very enthusiastic to do.
So you signed up for Church 101. I think I was facilitating that.
Yes, and Church 101 very quickly highlighted that there was biblical basis behind that. I knew there was biblical basis behind it, but it really emphasized it. And so that was super helpful for me.
Right. So Church 101 is our sort of introductory course, 5 weeks, I think 6 weeks now, generally online, like you experienced.
Yes.
And as you think back, Neil, what would be one thing or one or two things in Church 101 that specifically met the need that you were feeling, what you were looking for?
Undoubtedly, it was the encouragement to meet up with one other Christian as close to daily as possible. And in doing that, sharing, not just getting together to talk or to share biblical insights, but to actually share what's going on in your heart. And that was amazingly simple and yet very profound. It had a very profound effect on me in so many more ways than I thought it would do. And God is still doing that today, 6 or 7 years on.
So say a bit more about that. How has that impacted you so much? What's an example of that?
I think I'm very confident it's made me more just a lighter person,
Mm.
more willing, more able, more capacity to listen to other people. Because in meeting up with my good friend Alessandro in Milan, albeit over WhatsApp, and just chatting with one another, I feel heard and being able to share my heart, and I feel heard and seen. And that is some of our deepest desires. And once I've been heard and seen, then I'm more capable of hearing and seeing others.
Yes. And in Church 101, what you're talking about, we call that a CO2, Church of Two. You've been doing that with Alexandro probably since 2018. And one of the things that you learn in Church 101 is a very simple process called checking in with sachet. And ever since then, every time I see you, you always ask me the same question, which is what, Neil?
What, John, is your sachet? But what that means is, what is your predominant emotion at this time? And what has that got to do with the word sachet? Well, sachet is a mnemonic, which is SASHET, 3 negative emotions and 3 positive emotions. The 3 negative emotions, SAS, is sad, angry, and scared. The 3 positive emotions are happy, excited, and tender. And when we ask, what is your sachet? What we're asking is, what is your predominant emotion? One of those 6. And I have found that super helpful, just to, sometimes I'm very clear on it. Sometimes I haven't got a clue what it is, and it takes a long time to work out what it is. But in either case, it's super helpful just to share that and really be seen, not talk about periphery stuff, but really talk about what's going on in my heart, whether it's good or not. Quite often it's not. It's the sort of stuff which I've always wanted to share, and I've been delighted when I've been able to be given that opportunity to share. But that's tended to be a rare situation, whereas the rhythm of encouraging people to share it on a daily basis means that need is experienced so much more.
And the need that you'd been feeling previously was, at least one of the needs, was the desire to be closer to people, to really have significant relationships, vulnerable relationships. But my sense was you didn't really know exactly how. And checking in with Sachet gave you a very simple tool that has worked amazingly.
Totally. That's summed it up. Has worked amazingly. But it helps me so much each day. But guess what? The next day I get up and I need it again. It's got a very short shelf life. That's the issue. If I stop doing it, then I can quickly go back to sensing that loneliness.
Yes. And when you were in that Church 101 course, I'm sort of guessing about this now. One of the most amazing things for most people is you're in it with a group of people that you probably don't know. Maybe you've never met them. They might even be from someplace else in the world. But part of what we do is we check in with each other. Yeah. And over again, we get the response of, this is amazing. I didn't know you guys, but I feel closer to you now after 3 weeks than I do with my church that I've been with 10 years. How did this happen? Did you experience that?
Totally. And one of the guys who was in that group, and it's a group of maybe 5 or 6 people. One of those guys is none of whom I'd met before. One of those guys I'm still very good friends with and meet up with regularly, albeit online, Tony Carey. And we're big mates and meet up to encourage one another. and share our hearts together as well as Alex in Italy. So,
And
the wonderful blessing.
yeah, Tony's in Ireland. I just interviewed with him last week, so people will be probably seeing that interview as well. And it's just beautiful to see the close brotherhood that's developed between.
Totally.
So that's so cool. Now you shared with me one other story, Neil, about how being able to check in with Alexandro or Tony or whoever, that oddly enough had an impact on your marriage. Can you explain that?
Yes, definitely. This was doing this was on a daily basis, as close to daily as possible. Alex and I tend to do this Monday to Friday. We don't do it weekends, but on a daily basis. To my surprise, helped me a ton in my marriage as well, because Anne would often observe that I was a very needy person, which I immediately dismissed and thought, what are you talking about? But after a time, I realized that actually I am a needy person. I am needy emotionally. And the fact that as I mentioned earlier, that when I shared my heart with Alex, what's going on there, some needs are met, which Anne, and this is the nature of relationships, a wife can't meet all our needs. And the fact that Alex can meet some needs, some emotional needs that Anne cannot, means that I'm freed to be far lighter, less needy, less heavy with Anne. And so that means that our marriage has a healthier environment, a safer environment, actually. And now that I feel as though my needs are more profoundly and deeply met, that frees me to listen to Anne and be less needy of her. And so it's created an environment where we have a safer environment for Anne to share her emotions in a way that she was very fearful to do beforehand. She didn't feel it was safe. Now she feels as though it's a safer place so she can share her emotions. And actually, on a daily basis, we do the same thing, really. We just say, what's your like and dislike of the last 24 hours? And, it doesn't need to be anything hugely profound, but it still means that we connect at a heart level. So very simple, but that wouldn't have happened without Luke 10, without Church 101. It wouldn't happen without me connecting with Alex. It makes me a safer person to be around.
Such a beautiful story. I love it.
Yeah.
So let's do one more thing. Let's go back to 2018. You've just finished Church 101. What did you do next?
Well, I was so delighted with Church 101. I immediately set up I asked some pals to, hey, you'd love this. Why don't we go through this Church 101 together? This is fantastic. And so I did. I facilitated some Church 101s with much enthusiasm and very little knowledge. And I'm not sure any of them actually finished those courses, but I was very enthusiastic. But after that, I think maybe John suggested that a bit of training would be useful for me. And so I got trained in facilitating Church 101s. And probably since then, I've probably facilitated about 7 or 8 Church 101s, which has been fantastic because it reinforces the truths that I learned in 2018. They keep on need to be reinforced and deepened. So that's always a joy to do that, and it's always a joy to meet people who are delighted with the simple rhythms that are taught in Church 101, and the community, the people to share them with. It isn't just a theoretical exercise. It's something that they get to practice straight away in those meetings. And the depths of relationships and the joy that's generated from that is spectacular.
Yes. One more thing. So we talk in Luke 10 about something called the 10 to be prayer. Can you explain what that is, and what does it look like when the Lord of the Harvest answers that prayer? How do you know when that's happening?
Well, 10 to be prayer comes from Luke chapter 10, verse 2. And it's just simply beseeching the Lord of the harvest to send forth workers to pray that prayer, as Jesus called the disciples to do in Luke 10. And that's just what is encouraged to do. For me, I started praying that prayer from 2018, and almost immediately I remember God sending me someone who in all my Christian life is the most diligent worker in the harvest I've ever come across. That was Vishal, who's now in East Anglia in the UK, but totally focused on the mission. And very quickly he helped his mother in India and his cousin in India become Christians, and then they started a house church from that, which was a delight to me. Another clear 10 to be answer is a couple who did Church 101 course from the US in Florida about 18 months ago. They've been delighted with Church 101. They've carried on to the leader team that we have together once every 2 weeks, again online, where we meet together and we just simply practice what we've learned in Church 101. We practice connecting together at a heart level, and they have been a delight to be with, and they've gone on and they've just facilitated Church 101 themselves. And people in that group are now starting to think about joining leader teams themselves. So just from offering an environment where people can connect to the heart level, learn Church 101, you never know where God can take that. To see multiplication and transformation at such a deep level is a delight to behold. And that's wonderful. There's another. So that's the McGinleys in Florida. There's another guy, Dave Overton, who's in that group as well. And he was inspired after doing Church 101 just to set up a men's group locally near Southampton in the UK. And that men's group's carried on still. And each week they meet together and they share sachet. They share their hearts together.
That is just, it's so amazing to see the viral nature of this, that it expands or flows very easily from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, without exhortation or some master strategy other than just praying that prayer and paying attention. So
yes.
One last thing, I keep thinking of things. You told me a story just in the last couple of days where you're doing your CO2 with Alex, and he brings a friend of his there. And just describe briefly what happened. What did you guys do? And then how did this guy respond?
Well, it's a good old friend of both of Alex and mine, Michael. Alex has been in touch with him, and Alex explained about what he and I do in terms of connecting at a heart level on as close to day as possible. And he invited Michael to come along and experience that. That was just on Tuesday. And so we got together, we chatted over WhatsApp and shared our hearts. And at the end of the session, Michael said, "That was great. When can we do that again?" And I think he was probably expecting sometime next month. But Alex and I said, "Well, we can do it again tomorrow at 7 a.m. And so he was delighted with that. And now, so for the last 3 days, we've met together at 7 a.m. And we're going to meet tomorrow at 7 a.m. and see what happens, see where God takes it.
There you go. We often say Jesus does the heavy lifting. He prepares people. When they taste it, they say, "That's what I want," or not. I mean, not everybody is there. And so,
Yeah.
Neil, thank you, my friend. Always great to be with you. And I love your story. Thanks for sharing it.
Thank you, John.
What a powerful and honest story from Neil Bradshaw. His experience highlights a silent ache that so many leaders feel, loneliness in the very place meant to foster connection. But it's also a story of hope. Neil didn't find answers in a big program or another layer of church activity. He found them in the simplicity of relational rhythms, meeting with one trusted friend each day, checking in honestly, and sharing his heart. That one small practice didn't just renew Neil's faith, it made him lighter, freer, more emotionally grounded. It even transformed his marriage by meeting emotional needs his wife alone couldn't carry. This is the quiet power of what we call Church 101. If Neil's story resonates with you, I want to invite you to explore Church 101 for yourself. It's not a class, it's a doorway. A safe relational space where people like you are rediscovering what it means to be the church. Just visit lk10.com/intro to take your next step. That's lk10.com/intro. You don't have to keep carrying the weight alone. There's a path forward, and it might be simpler than you think. Thanks for joining me today on Stories from the Revolution. If today's conversation stirred something in you, would you please consider passing it along to someone who needs to hear it? Just tap that share button and send it their way by text, email, or social. Until next time, keep listening, keep loving, and keep leading like Jesus.